Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. The new year is here, but that does not mean we cannot reminisce and look back on last year in the GAA and look back through some of the big moments in Gaelic football, hurling, ladies football, camogie, looking at some of the big moments in club championships as well, and just generally a bit of a chit-chat, really, just to kind of look through 2022, all the big moments, the stories, the controversies, and very much everything that went with it as well. Delighted to be joined here by Matthew Hurley from the GAA Statsman podcast, obviously a regular contributor on the channel throughout the entire year, so no better man to get on. And just a reminder, we're brought to you by Declan Kirby GAA Star, the best children's book out there on the market at the minute. You can find it on Amazon, Easons, all good bookshops, so make sure to check it out when you get a chance. Matthew, Happy New Year, first of all, to yourself. How's things? And how's life? How's the new year treating you so far, one day in?
Yeah, one day in, a few hours in, Aaron, and thanks for having me on again. Like the whole of 2022, brilliant to be on, and very, very good start to the year for myself. Yeah, just relaxing really after the Christmas shenanigans. And before we start, actually, I wanted to just pay tribute to Paddy Palmer. He's in hospital at the moment. Cork journalist. I know him from match reports and everything, and he's a great help to me. And he was involved in a car accident just after Christmas, and hopefully he gets a speedy recovery after a horrific incident like that. I think it was a hit and run, according to the news stories of the Irish Times or Cork Bio or whatever. But it's a sad day, and hopefully Paddy recovers, and hopefully he'll be back reporting on matches. But glad to be on the channel again now.
Yeah, we all wish him a speedy recovery there. Make no question about that. Obviously, looking back at 2022, I mean, how do you look back at the overall year, like in terms of the GAA? Like, I suppose if you were to summarize the year in sort of one short paragraph or whatever, like how would you kind of look back and reflect on it?
Yeah, it was a crazy enough year. I watched just to get in the mood. I watched a bit of yourself and Seamus discuss it on Play on GA. Check it out if you haven't already. Brilliant channel there from Seamus Brady. You went through a load of incidents there. Controversy of the year. I don't know how many incidents you went over there. You look at Galway Armagh incidents, the fight in the crowd. Like when I was doing my awards on Instagram, like, geez, I forgot about that. The fight in the crowd, like the fact that a fight between Wexford and Dublin went all the way to the crowd with a woman with a hurl belting someone at the back. Like that didn't even make the controversy of the year outstandingly, really. But it was a mad year. Like you said yourself, 2021 maybe had more shocks than 2022. I think it was more significant because more fans went into the stadiums, and I myself went to loads of games across the National Football League, across the All-Ireland Championship, went to my first All-Ireland men's final as well, carrying Galway, so that was a brilliant experience for myself on a personal level. So I think it was a brilliant year, and maybe Kerry and Limerick were expected winners, and in camogie ladies football with Kilkenny and Meath were expected winners as well. But we still had a fair few shocks, like Offaly reaching the minor hurling final, Clare reaching the Munster final itself in hurling was a big shock. Limerick doing so well, getting up to Division 2. Dublin going down, I have to mention it, Aaron, going down to Division 2. What a brilliant year for everybody involved there. But brilliant year. Not as many shocks, but then again, brilliant to get back in stadiums more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it'll be all good with Dublin in Division 2 until we play Cork in match day 3, I think it is, in the National Football League. But Matthew says here, is it true Jack McCaffrey is coming back? Yeah, he is coming back. I think he might be a little bit late to that news there. Test Case says here, what do you think about Johnny Cooper retiring from inter-county football with Dublin? Yeah, it's interesting. All right, I think that news broke while I was speaking with Seamus Brady yesterday, actually, during the Play on GA podcast, similar podcast to this one, just looking back at all the news or sort of all the big moments from the year. But yeah, obviously a fantastic servant for Dublin football down the years. I mean, he's definitely part of that initial crop that was there when Dublin made the breakthrough in 2011, and there's been no better servant really to Dublin football down the years. And I think him probably stepping away and retiring probably has come at the right time. I don't think he was probably going to be starting next year anyway. I think the focus is probably going to go on a lot more of the younger lads who've been making the breakthrough in the last couple of seasons. But yeah, what were your thoughts on that news?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, really. Like Johnny Cooper, I thought he'd go on for a long time, and even though he made on my Instagram page and host of players retiring, it probably just shows the commitment that players have for Gaelic football. You look at the names of that in general. There was three Laois players. There was James O'Donoghue, who retired pretty early. David Tubridy actually retired a day earlier than Johnny Cooper as well. Very good player himself. And yeah, big loss for Dublin, absolutely. Like Dublin's defence was suspect in the league, and I suppose Johnny Cooper was maybe one of the best out of a bad bunch. Like Lee Gannon could have something to say about that as well. Very good performances from him. And it was funny actually with Johnny Cooper, because I was watching. I'm not sure if you watched this before, Aaron. Chris Kamara and Jeff Stelling came over and commentated on the Ireland final, and they interviewed Johnny Cooper, and he was going on about the importance of club and the J, and him going up to Hin 16 and hoping he'd be a Dublin footballer. I was just watching that 2 days before his retirement. So just amazing the way you just watch a video and then the guy retires within a matter of days. It's absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, you could see he loved his football. 7 All-Ireland titles. You can't get much better than that. An unbelievable achievement from him. And yeah, he was part of an unbelievable Dublin side. And that'd be worried for yourself and many other Dublin fans, because you look at Cluxton walking away, Michael Darby-Macaulay over the last few years, and now you have Johnny Cooper. A lot of them now, and the Bandon's breaking up, unfortunately.
Yeah, like I think his leadership and I suppose his experience will be a big loss, but I do think at the same time he wasn't always a regular starter last year. He did do well now, in fairness, when he did play. But I do think all in all, like I do think Dublin probably should be looking more forward to bringing through younger lads in around that defence, rather than relying on some of the older lads in there. But it is definitely going to be a big loss. I think not having him in the panel, is going to be a big loss. And actually, the defensive positions are definitely maybe one area where Dublin might be lacking some numbers maybe going into 2023. But yeah, I suppose, what would you say? I mean, first of all, like just going to run through a couple of different things, obviously, in this podcast, but what would you say overall was the best moment of the year in 2022 in the GAA? I mean, there were so many good moments, big moments, obviously All-Ireland wins across 4 different codes at senior level. And then obviously you had some other great moments in there, but what would you sort of classify as maybe your best moment in 2022?
Jeez, forgive me now, Aaron, but I can think of a lot, really, from this year. Unbelievable moments. I suppose the one that stands out is the handshake between Brian Cody and Henry-Shefflin. Like, even watching this, oh my God, I think actually the Croke Park one was more entertaining in a way, because Cody clearly said something to him, and then Shefflin just walking away, just shaking his head. It was incredible television, really. We got 2 episodes, brilliant entertainment, but it was kind of sad the way, it revolved this year in a way, because they shared so much success together, and then for to end so sour this year it was very bad, really. And another few moments, the Sean O'Shea kick. I know a load of Dublin fans will go at me in the comments, and you will probably as well, but it was an incredible kick from Sean O'Shea, and against the hill with Evan Comerford shaking the post. That pressure on him, unbelievable kick. Rian O'Neill as well against Galway, in a way, was brilliant. Tony Kelly's sideline against Limerick. Yeah, definitely Armagh boo. And yeah, I suppose to go left field, two in particular, in ladies football, Ashley Donoghue with her son, and Noel Donoghue's son indeed as well, the Do It For Dan campaign, and Dan coming on the pitch after she winning the intermediate All-Ireland. That was a brilliant moment for me, and she cemented herself as one of the best defenders in ladies football, and I'm glad Laois are playing senior next season. They played some unbelievable stuff in that final against Wexford as well. And Ashley Donoghue, I don't think she played for 2 years between COVID. She had a second child of her own as well. So to come back and to get the Player of the Match award in that final as well, and to captain or be one of the leaders of that team, was incredible from her. And close at home in Cork as well, I'm not sure if you've seen Colm Casey's goal for Enniscarra against Castlebarter. That was unbelievable stuff. Like, they needed a goal in the last few minutes, and up steps Colm Casey with just a pull along the ground, and it's in the back of the net. And at the end of an unbelievable double game between the two, Enniscarra finally win their Premier Intermediate Championship. It's a brilliant achievement for them. Even Mikey Kiley's goal against ID Carlow, like, I think that's under the radar a small bit, considering that was actually outside the 45-metre line, and he had to get a goal there to get UL into the final. And UL wouldn't have won the Fitzgibbon Cup with Mikey Kiley's goal. It was an incredible finish from him. Harry Ruddle's goal against Ballyhead Shamrocks, incredible as well. Same situation. He had to get a goal. He got us. So, yeah, there's a load of moments this season. But if I was to pinpoint one, it has to be the handshake, I'd say.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right. I mean, the handshake, it definitely was great TV, wasn't it? I mean, it was such a strange scenario in many ways because, like, when it actually sort of came around, like, I know obviously Cody and Shefflin, like, they have a huge history between the two down the years. You know, they've obviously Shefflin's been integral to the success of Kilkenny, obviously playing under Brian Cody, and obviously Henry Shefflin going to manage Galway. But you wouldn't have really thought there would have been that much sort of discontent between the two, really. Like, I know sort of Henry Shefflin's maybe been lurking in the background to get that job potentially in the future, and maybe that's why Brian Cody maybe had a bit of sort of ill feeling towards Henry Shefflin. But considering even what Henry had gone through with his brother passing away a couple of weeks previously, you know, like, I don't think many people saw this coming. You know, like, obviously the cameras were going to try and pick up as much as they can and try and make a story out of it as much as possible, but I don't think many people saw that coming.
No, they didn't at all, especially the first day. The second day was kind of, you know, even the split camera between the two, you saw coming, definitely. The first day, like, now that you mentioned it, with Paul Shefflin passing away as well, along with the other people across the country really passing away this season, but especially with his brother passing away and then a few weeks later playing against Kilkenny. And again, the success they had together as best player and manager. And for that to be thrown has been really, I don't know, Brian Cody was brilliant this season. I thought he was manager of the year, up there with manager of the year. The way he galvanised that Kilkenny team, getting them all the way to the All-Ireland final and nearly beating Limerick. But the way he behaved, especially in Salt Hill, I think it was poor from him. It was just poor form. Maybe it's just a different way that Brian Cody deals with things. I don't know what it is with him, but it probably was one of the moments of the year because it was so unexpected. Like, no one expected it to happen, especially the first day. Like, everyone expected maybe a hug and maybe a best of luck for the new season or something like that, or something. But clearly, especially the second day, Cody clearly said something to him, because Henry wouldn't have had that reaction if Cody said, you know, a respectful thing or whatnot. So, yeah, it was a shock to the system for everybody up and down the country. And the fact that Callum Kicks and RT were talking about this as an end of year review, as big a story of the GAA, probably cemented its place as one of the controversies or moments of the year, possibly, because, geez, no one expected it at all. And even the lads who were interested in football were tuned into this, you know, tuned into the Leinster final because of that handshake. And I don't think there's been, you know, a provincial final or an All-Ireland final where we were concentrating on the two managers exchanging warm handshakes rather than the actual game. You know, it was incredible scenes this season. And, yeah, I think for that reason, it was probably one of the shocks of the year, if anything.
Yeah, it was surprising, all right. Like, I don't think many people seen it coming at all. Like, and even the second handshake as well. Like, I mean, you've seen Henry Shefflin a lot more prepared this time around, sort of making his way over to Brian Cody this time around with the handshake. But yeah, like, very, very odd between the two. Like, what do you think is sort of been, or what do you think maybe was a downfall? Like, if you have to speculate from an outside point of view, do you think maybe Henry Shefflin was maybe kind of lurking in the background for that Kilkenny job? Like, that's my belief anyway. That's what I think in regards to them two maybe having a fall now. I can't really think of anything else. Obviously, neither of us know, and neither of us probably will know until the future. But what do you think?
It's a tough one. Like, I think maybe it's maybe stretching boundaries here, but maybe it was the fact Henry went to Galway, Kilkenny's nearest rivals in Leinster. That's the reason I'm thinking. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was lurking in the background, but Derek Ling was there as well, who eventually got the job, and best up to him this season. But I take it from the point of view, if like a Kerry manager would go to Cork or a Cork manager would go to Kerry, there'd be absolute uproar. And you look at if a Meath manager goes to Dublin, it's the same reason. So I think that would be probably the reason. He went to a rival county, and especially with Galway doing so well this season, with Henry galvanising that Galway team and being a certain threat to Kilkenny. I think Galway in patches this season were the better team than Kilkenny, and Kilkenny maybe got lucky in the Leinster final. And the fact that Henry was managing that team over Brian Cody and Kilkenny, and Henry was doing better arguably, maybe that was the reason why that he was, outshining Brian Cody this season. Maybe it's just childish, to be honest with you, a childish reason in a way, but that's the only reason I can think of. Maybe the fact he was lucky in the background, maybe, but you have to think as well, Brian Cody would have been on the edge of retirement, that he'd be welcoming the new manager with open arms. You see with soccer, with Sir Alex Ferguson, with David Boyce, opening him with open arms and wishing him all the best in the new job. Maybe Brian Cody, that's what I believe anyway, should be doing that. Just welcoming the new manager in, and it's saying to the fans, trust the process. So I think maybe that's stretch. I think honestly it's because he went to Galway. That's the only reason I can come up with in a way. But and I can imagine the uproar really between like a Kilkenny fan who idolise Henry for so many seasons, and then to go to the public enemy number one. I mean, it doesn't really sound good, but that's the only reason I can think of anyway as to why they fell out. But again, it's sad really in a way that they fell out because of the success they had together. It's almost like Roy Keane and Sir Alex Ferguson in a way in soccer with Manchester United. They fell out for some reason anyway, because Roy had an injury or something like that, and the way they fell out, and it's the same here. I mean, I hope they reconcile maybe in the next year or two. I'm hoping that happens because they're too great to the game. But then again, it's their own personal lives. We won't know until maybe a year or two in advance.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's 10 people tuning in at the moment there, so if you could hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, that'd be much appreciated. Moving on to some other big moments. I mean, looking at the Armagh Galway game, I mean, for me that was one of I think it was undoubtedly the game of the year. I think, unless there's any games you can think of in the Core Club Championship, maybe that will compete with it. But for myself personally, anyway, from all the games I've watched and witnessed, like that has to be the game of the year, in my opinion. What do you think?
I'd agree with you, absolutely. And I was at this game as well. I was so lucky to be on the hill for this game, and it was an incredible game of football. It ebbed and flowed, and you would have thought with Johnny Heaney got that goal and Kieran Malloy got a point towards the end, you were thinking, God, we have this wrapped. Absolutely. And then when Armagh get the goal, like Conor Turber's goal especially, it came out of the blue really, with Gleeson just catching the ball and then hand passing it straight to Turbot, and you look up and you don't know what happened. Like it's absolutely incredible how it unfolded. The Rian O'Neill, and at that point when Rian O'Neill kicked it over, I thought Armagh had this. God, we've messed this up completely. Which I know Shane Walsh had an incredible year as well, but there was a moment in that game, and I look back at the videotapes on TG Carr on YouTube recently. I watched the full game back again, and Shane Walsh, for some reason, kicks it across the goal and to an Armagh player when they were point up, and all he had to do was run down the clock, go down to the corner. That could have cost Galway completely. Like it was mental stuff. And then Rian O'Neill, and then the brawl happened, and it was like I witnessed this from the hill, and I was shocked at this. And then I looked at the replays on RT, and they were going to go to an ad break. The music was going to go on, and then they were saying to Darren Maloney, come back. So it's all kicking off here. It was incredible, really. And the eye gouging and Tiernan Kelly, while we're on it, correct decision to ban him for 6 months, and hopefully he's learned his lesson now after that. But it was an absolutely incredible game, even in extra time as well, when Galway seemed to lose the game. I think there was a goal from Rory Grugan in extra time, and I thought Armagh have this Armagh have it. Then Killy McDade scores a goal, and then I look across my dad, who's in the hill with me. I'm looking at him. This game is mental, absolutely mental stuff. And then Jamar Hall scores, and you're thinking, Armagh have it again. Killian McDade scores, and then the penalty shootout. Jesus, like the Armagh players, they just froze under the pressure. Then Stephen Campbell, he had a brilliant year, and it was unfortunate the way it ended with that wide for the penalty. And Galway were singing in the rain at the end of it. It was an absolutely incredible game, and I was so lucky to be at it. And then the next game after that was a damn squid. Mayo and Kerry maybe were just culture shocked by the game before it, and it was just a damn squid really of a game. But the game beforehand especially, incredible game, and so lucky to be on the hill for this game because, geez, the Armagh fans, and while we're on the Armagh fans as well, Croke Park that day was a sea of orange. It was absolutely incredible. Like every stand you could see, you look down the Davin end, you look across around you in the hill, you look at the Cusack, you look at the Hogan, and it's all orange. Literally, it was absolutely incredible. And the Armagh fans were probably, if there was an award for fans of the year, I think Armagh would be up there. They were absolutely incredible this season, and fair play to every Armagh fan this season. But yeah, absolutely incredible game, and undoubtedly, I said it on my Instagram as well, game of the year without a doubt for me.
Yeah, no, 100% as well. I mean, the amount of drama. I mean, I was kind of similar to you. Obviously, I wasn't at the game, but I was watching it at home, and you couldn't believe the drama that was unfolding, the late goals, the red cards. Obviously, the brawl, which Gavin alludes to here. He says Armagh v Galway was great, but Damien Comer's eye gouge was probably one of the worst part of the year. We don't really think how detectable eyes are, but he must still see since his great Derry goal. No, I think he clearly did make it a full recovery, and thankfully enough, it wasn't anything too serious that was going to keep him out or anything like that. But yeah, like that was the only sort of downside, maybe, with the brawl. But it is interesting sometimes with the GAA, like, because I said this on Seamus' podcast yesterday as well. Like, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, we're looking back at the brawl nearly with some sort of fondness as well at times, which is kind of weird. Like, we're kind of nearly looking back at it now because it's been so long and everything else, without actually realizing that it was definitely a bad part of the game. Like, it added to the excitement of the game, maybe, but at the same time, like, that was something we obviously don't want to see in the GAA.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact you mentioned so many brawls and referees getting assaulted as well, there is the great in the game, that game between Galway and Armagh. The actual football being played was outstanding, and the game ebbed and flowed. But it probably showed the stuff that we want stamped out of our game, the brawls and stuff like that. And I know RT are saying it's a disgrace and all that, and you said it on Seamus' podcast, and I'd agree with you. Maybe there's a sense of kind of hypocrisy there, considering they were just going to go off the art break, everything was going smoothly, and then some fight breaks out, and then Darren Maloney's back in commentary. I mean, I know it's entertaining, but the fact that RT were saying it was a disgrace afterwards, and they were showing the actual scenes in front of a whole nation, that didn't really bode well. And even the fight in Parnell Park between, I think it was Owler Tabala and I forget the other club's name in Dublin now, but
Barrack, I think, yeah.
Niamh Barrack, yeah, it was that game anyway, and the fight just spilled onto the crowd, and there was a woman actually with a hurl that was striking someone at the back. I mean, and even a Wicklow, I think that was last year, maybe it was this year, Wicklow under 12 game, where there was a brawl between the parents. I mean, it was ridiculous stuff, and even the Roscommon referee getting assaulted, really it was poor form, really poor form, and even. You were mentioning the Armagh Tyrone brawl as well in the league, and I forgot about this completely before you actually mentioned it. And even looking back at clips on YouTube, the fact David Goff sent 5 players off, and it was good. That was nearly into the crowd. That was just on the edge of the crowd, that game. And the game at Parnell Park, it actually went into the crowd. I mean, and even the game in Croke Park between Galway and Armagh, that was on a dangerous end of the dressing room. Like, there was steps going down to the dressing room. Imagine if a player fell down there. It was disgraceful scenes, really. To see it unfolded. The fact that Paul Kelly and Aidan Nugent got sent off as well, I don't know what that was for. To be honest with you, maybe it's the two captains. We still don't know to this day why they got sent off. But to be honest, like you were mentioning as well, play on GAA as well, a very good point, that David Goff sending 5 players off in the Tyrone and Armagh game. Maybe that's what needs to happen in these brawls to make it stop, to make sure, to show people that this is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this at a GAA game, and it's absolutely wrong. And Tiernan Kelly, hopefully he's learned his lesson now after that eye gouging incident. I'm hoping to God he learned his lesson. I hope the parents and in that Wicklow brawl learned their lesson, and I hope the fans in that Leinster junior hurling game learned their lesson as well. I hope everybody learns their lesson from this, because we even see in soccer some ridiculous incidents. Even the England-Italy, I'm not sure if you've seen that, Aaron, after the England-Italy game, the England fans storming Wembley, or even the England fans in '95 storming Lansdowne Road. We don't want that in the GAA. We simply don't. It's an amateur sport. We want this sport to, reverberate around the world, to be watched as many people as possible, because it's a brilliant game. But we want the brilliance of Shane Walsh, the brilliance of Damien Comer, the brilliance of David Clifford, the brilliance of Henry Shefflin or Garrett Hagerty being spread across the world, not brawls like this. That's what I think. And yeah, that's all I have to say on the matter. Really, it was kind of, yes, it was crazy incidents, but at the same time, it was disgusting scenes really from up and down the country in the GAA.
Yeah, and I think you'd have to say, in terms of a controversy of the year, in terms of, the worst part of the GAA in the year, I think that was definitely, obviously it was great seeing fans come back and everything else, and it was great to see supporters being back, and but obviously seeing a lot of those scenes of referees being assaulted, of fights breaking out in the stands, of players getting in fights and everything else. I think, I don't know how the GAA go about sort of stopping this, but I think they really do need to make big stamps on this. And I've seen, obviously, I think they're going to be giving out 52-week bans for some of the people involved in that row in Parnell Park. But as I was saying previously, I think those people should just be banned from the GAA for life, in my opinion. I think if you're going to assault someone with a hurl, or you're going to assault someone on a pitch or whatever, obviously it depends on, obviously context is always there, but especially from fans and everything else, if they're going to be assaulting other people, if you were to go out on the street now with a hurl or whatever and start hitting people, that's jail time, you're going to get arrested, prosecuted, all the rest. So I don't see why it should be any different on the side of a GAA pitch. And the more these incidents go on and the more people get away with it, the more they'll continue. And as I was saying to Seamus yesterday as well, the worry would be if something like this happened in a big game in an All-Ireland. And thankfully enough, the Armagh Galway game, it was away from the crowd and everything else. But the last thing you'd want is something to happen close to a sideline where supporters are, and then it gets into the crowd, and then it becomes a national story, and who knows where it gets picked up then, maybe even by other countries and stuff. So I think that's the worst thing possible, and I think that's why the GAA really need to clamp down before something bad happens, because we've all seen the Loud Mead scenario, and we can't have another situation like that again, surely.
Absolutely. And even it gets coming back to me now, Limerick and Clare, there was a brawl after the normal time, there was a brawl in the tunnel, and even I'm thinking back to the week after the Armagh Galway game, the GAA implemented something for Clare and Kilkenny, who were playing the All-Ireland Hurling semi-final next Saturday after that the Kilkenny players would go into the dressing first, then the Clare players would follow after that, and maybe have a talk in the pitch or something like that, and then go in after that. And I think that's probably the way to go. Even I think in 2020, even when the fans weren't there, I think Philly McMahon was involved in an incident for Dublin and Mayo, where he was catching, I don't know, it was a fight with Keith Higgins or somebody in the All-Ireland final. And even I think back, that Cork and Dublin kind of going to the dressing room brawl in the league final with Michael Sheens, I think, Border Brogan was involved in that as well. It was kind of disgusting scenes when you think about it as well. And you mentioned the fact that if they don't get punished, this will keep going on. The Cork Dublin incident was 2011. We're now in 2023. That's 12 years ago. And stuff like this is actually getting worse as the years go on, and it's not good for the GAA. And you're absolutely right. I know the 52-week bans is in, but yourself and Seamus mentioned correctly as well on that podcast yesterday. A fella could walk up 30 weeks in and you recognise him. He could just walk in straight away and like nothing happened. I can absolutely agree with you. If you assault someone on a GAA pitch, where it's a hurl or a fist or whatever, lifetime ban. You aren't allowed inside a GAA pitch again, or at a GAA match, an Alliance League game or whatever, again after that as well. And even I was thinking, this come into my mind as well. I'm not sure if you've seen this, Kilkenny fan bullying a Galway fan for the Leinster final as well. That sort of culture is creeping into the fans as well. And and if the fans are thinking that's the right thing to do, if brawls are the right thing to do on the pitch, maybe we should do it outside the stadium. You know, and we don't want this in the GAA. We really don't. It's ridiculous stuff, really. And hope the sooner this is clamped out of the GAA, the better. And the GAA have to stamp down on this. We talk about systems and rule changes and you know, championship structures and all that, and saying, oh, this is serious for little counties. What's more serious is this now, to stamp this out of the game. It's crucial we get this stamped out of the game. Put lifetime bans on people who, you know, would get arrested for some of the stuff they would do in the street. Apply it on the GAA pitch as well, you know, and for this not to happen again. I think anyway, even for fans as well. I think having the Westmeath and the Tailteann Cup as well. I know it was a brilliant win for Westmeath, but I think there was fans in the hill fighting between Cavan and Westmeath fans as well. I've seen that incident as well on social media. Like, I hope this gets stamped out of the game, Aaron, but the way things are going with these 52-week bans and, oh, we'll get this fell off and, you know, he made a mistake, he won't do it again and stuff like that. If we have that attitude, these fights are just going to still continue. And something terrible is going to happen. It's going to get to that point, unfortunately. But the GAA have to fix this. There's no doubt about this. We're saying this on podcasts time and time and time again. But the GAA need to put this to Congress or something like that. Because if this doesn't get sorted this year, it won't get sorted until something serious happens.
100%, yeah. Like, and the general consensus I've seen a lot of the time, like looking through social media and everything, is that a lot of the time it is kind of just getting brushed under the carpet and no one's really discussing it or sort of taking it serious. And it does seem like something bad is going to have to happen before, you know, there's change. And you know, sometimes there's been previous cases of that in the past as well. Like, so in other sports, but hopefully nothing tragic or anything ever does happen. But yeah, like looking at some other maybe controversial moments of the year. I mean, he obviously had the Hawkeye incident involving Shane Walsh. I mean, that was a bizarre moment. Obviously, the Galway team and Pádraig Joyce were saying that they weren't going to be coming out at the start of the second half if the point wasn't awarded, which, you know, you often wonder if that point wasn't awarded, what actually would have happened. Like, I think that would have been very, very interesting. And Shane Walsh himself, obviously, his move to Kilmacud Crokes was somewhat controversial in people's eyes. So, I mean, yeah, like what other controversies can you think of?
Yeah, I have a load in my mind, considering it was suggested to me, and a note that I came up with before I started doing the awards on my Instagram. But first of all, the Hawkeye incident. That was, well, it did happen. I think it was Carlo Rowe had a point disallowed incorrectly in the All-Ireland LGFA final as well, because Hawkeye wasn't working or for some reason or whatnot. And then Barry Nash's point for Limerick as well. That was actually much more serious in 2013. And Limerick were denied a place in the All-Ireland minor hurling final, and that was a disgrace in itself. The GAA made the right decision afterwards, thank God, because of the point. But like, you have to wonder, I think the Premier League had this incident. I think it was Sheffield United and Aston Villa. A goal was disallowed for Sheffield United and Aston Villa stayed in the league. Thank God this incident didn't have further ramifications, because Galway won the game comfortably enough, to be honest with you. 2-8, I think it was 2-8 to 1-6 or something like that. So it was a 5-point margin. So Galway would have won the game regardless. But yeah, you'd have to wonder, this is a lesson for the GAA. They need to, you know, test these technology systems before every game. That's the way they need to, you know, go about things in the future. If it happens, they have to learn from this lesson now. It's another lesson the GAA have to learn from. The Shane Walsh one, geez, I don't know about you, Aaron. I didn't find any controversy with this. If he went to Dublin from Galway as inter-county player, then there would have been a big controversy. But the fact it's Kilmacud Crokes, like, I've seen so many players go up to Dublin, get transfers. I think Niall Corkery went up from Cork. I think it was McKeever from Armagh or something like that went over there. James Lockery went down to Cork. There's a Derry player, Chrissy Spears, I think, plays for Rathmore in County Kerry. It happens every day because they can't, you know, feasibly go from county to county. Like Shane Walsh's club, Kilturn Clonburn, is all the way in the west of the country. So you're expecting him to, you know, work in Dublin and then go to training at Clonburn. You know what I mean? Geez, it's ridiculous, really, and I didn't see any controversy with it. Another one, I suppose, it's closer to me in West Cork, but the junior champions, well, Barrow getting kicked out of the Carbery Junior A Championship because their game against Bandon was cancelled because Bandon's second team couldn't field the team in that game. And the fact that Argadine Rangers and Ty McCormick got 4 points, Barrow got 2 points. If Barrow's game against Bandon was played and they won that game, they would have been at 4 points. So the fact that that controversy spilled over, I mean, it was a disgrace in its own way. And the fact as well is even more of a disgrace. Bandon got a second chance. They got a relegation playoff against some other club in West Cork, and they stayed up. They should have been automatically relegated after that. You know, not fielding a team at this level of football in Cork. I mean, it was ridiculous, really. The whole thing in general. And I suppose we mentioned this before, but the abuse of referees this year as well, on and off the pitch. I mean, it was disgraceful, disgusting in many ways. The way the referees were treated, the things that happened at Roscommon, in Wexford, in an underage game at Tipperary. I mean, disgraceful is the word for that. And hopefully, I'm hoping the referees get treated fairly now next year. And, you know, there's a bit of empathy with fans as well. Like they're saying, oh, we should treat the referees with the same disgrace as players and stuff like that. Look, the referee, it's a voluntary job. Like, he could easily, you know, work in a hotel or work in a retail place or work in a garage instead of refereeing in a GAA game. Be thankful he's there, you know, to officiate a game properly and, you know, with integrity as well. And some people are just ungrateful in many ways. And I think that was probably the biggest disgrace of the year, that they were treated that way. But there was a load of controversies, a load of them really. And yeah, hopefully they'll you know, they'll get fixed before the new season anyway.
Yeah, Tom says here, new year, new Mayo, and Test Case says Cillian O'Connor will be the footballer of the year. So we're one day into 2023, and the positivity is certainly flying from the Mayo supporters there. Breakout star in Gaelic football. First of all, who would spring to mind? It doesn't necessarily have to be a young player; it can be sort of any player. But who was the breakout star in your opinion in 2022?
Yeah, I was watching this on your channel actually, and the fact you didn't mention him, I know I'll be called biased and stuff like that, but the fact that he was one of the top scorers in the whole All-Ireland and National League as well in his first full season as a Cork senior, Stephen Sherlock. I mean, he was incredible, and he's one of the best players for Cork now. He's only come into the team. Ronan McCarthy, for some reason, dropped him. Then John Cleary, Keith Ricken think he's the man. He'll get him in the team, and he's transformed that Cork forward line on his own. He's been absolutely incredible, along with Colin Manny and Brian Hurley, incredibly. But I think he was really, really good this year. I think he was an incredible find, really, this season. Lee Gannon is a great shout. I think he was incredible for Dublin in the defence this season. And even look at Derry, some of the Derry players as well, Shane McGuig and Chrissy McKay, not because we know they're good players, but the fact they announced themselves to the whole of Ireland, really, and they were incredible players. Johnny Glynn from Galway, or I think that cornerback as well, was an excellent player. Jack Glynn, that's his name, cornerback for Galway. He was incredible this season. Killy McDade is a brilliant shout as well, because before this season, who would you have said would have been the main contributor for Galway? You probably would have said Shane Walsh, Damon Comer, Paul Conroy, a lot of them players, maybe even Robert Finnerty. But the fact you would have said Killy McDade, and Killy McDade, to get footballer of the year at Aberdeen, and deservedly so, he was outstanding, especially in that game against Armagh. One of the best players in the field. He was incredible that season as well. You look at Ronan O'Toole from Westmeath. I thought he announced himself onto the big stage this season. He was incredible. And I suppose look at ladies football, Erica McGlynn, going from TG Carroll underdogs to All-Ireland finalists for Kerry, was brilliant. Sheer O'Shea was brilliant. Niamh Carmody, brilliant. A load of the Kerry players, to be fair. Kelsey Nesbitt from Meath was very good as well. So, yeah, there was a load of them, but my honest pick would be a biased one, but Stephen Sherlock, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that is actually a good shout, in fairness. I mean, considering he came back into the side, and obviously the year he had with St. Finbars, and then following that on with the Cork senior footballers as well, like, I don't think you can really argue too much with that. I think it is actually a good show. Yeah, I'd probably go with Killian McDade. Like, just I know he's been involved with Galway in the past, but the fact that he has the year that he has in midfield, like he was up there with Shane Walsh as Galway's best player of the year anyway, in my opinion. I mean, he was in exceptional form. You think of his performance against Armagh as well, with 1-2 in that game, I think it was in total. Like, and you think in general as well, looking at that performance from Killian McDade, like that performance against Armagh, like that was probably one of the best individual performances of the year as well, which is actually what brings me to next. Like, what, in your opinion, from one player, can be in football or hurling, the best individual performance, do you think?
Certainly one that springs to mind is Mikey Butler against Clare. The fact he shackled Tony Kelly all game, I think that has to be up there. Like the fact people were talking about Tony Kelly as player of the season, being a brilliant player. Tony Kelly is an outstanding player, but the fact that Mikey Butler kept him so quiet was incredible. And the fact that actually most people are saying Sean Finn deserved an All-Star above him. I know Sean Finn was outstanding for years on end for Limerick. He's an incredible player. But Mikey Butler definitely deserved an All-Star this year, and Young Player of the Year coincidentally as well. Incredible performance on Tony Kelly. It was a very good performance. One that's up there, I suppose, is Shane Walsh carrying the All-Ireland final. Incredible 9 points. What more can you say, really? Any David Clifford performance. You could literally pick any performance from Clifford, whether it's the National League, the Championship, any for Fossa or East Kerry, and you'll get a good performance. You'll get an exceptional performance. So he's probably up there as well. Tony Kenny's against Limerick in that Munster final, incredible. Garrett Hagerty in the All-Ireland final is definitely up there as well, including that goal, which was an absolute corker of a goal. It was an incredible goal. You couldn't have put it so far in the corner if you tried. It was an incredible goal and incredible performance from the man that knows how to win finals himself. Killian McDade definitely against Armagh. That's up there, I think. Trying to think of one though. Shane Walsh against Roscommon in the Connacht final was a pretty good performance. I suppose Brendan Rodgers in the Ulster final maybe goes under the radar. 3 points from full back. Very good performance from him as well. So that definitely is up there as well. Thinking now, any Derry performance, probably Conor Glass against Clare, the All-Ireland quarter final. Damien Comer against Derry scored 2 goals, especially the second goal, which was a very clever finish. So yeah, there's been an absolute load of good performances this season. So yeah, a load of them. And probably the one to pick, thinking about probably Walsh against Kerry, because scoring 9 points in All-Ireland final, I think is an absolutely exceptional performance.
Yeah, I'd go with that one as well. Like, I think his performance in the All-Ireland final was exceptional. Considering as well he was picking them up and to score 9 points in the final. I mean, remember that point sort of close to the sideline on his right boot. Like, I mean, that was extraordinary. And considering Galway were beaten in the final, like it is quite rare for a beaten finalist to actually have probably the best player actually on the pitch on the day. But Gavin says Sean Kelly, a Connacht club and county win and an All-Ireland final appearance might be underrated in terms of breakout stars of the year. That definitely is a good show. Breakout star in hurling there. I mean, you mentioned Mikey Butler. I mean, has there been anyone better than him, do you think, in terms of a hurler that burst onto the scene in 2022?
I think Mike Butler is clear at the top. I think he's been absolutely incredible at quarterback for Kilkenny. I know he was starting semi-regularly in the past 2 seasons, but he announced himself as one of the best quarterbacks this season particularly. He was absolutely incredible. One that's going to get under the radar, actually, I'll credit Clare for this, Shane Meehan. Not just in the Munster Championship, he was very good when he came on against Limerick, but in some Munster Championship, I think he scored 2-12 in one game. That was incredible for like an 18 or 19-year-old. Incredible performance from him. I suppose Cathal O'Neill from Limerick, to fill in for Keegan Lynch is a big job. I think he has to be up there with one of them as well. Kieran Joyce for Cork, I think up and down the country, people will say this as well, has slotted seamlessly into that centre-back spot for the Rebels. I think he was very good. Trying to get ones for Galway, I suppose. Maybe there's not so much. Clare, Robin Mounsey, I think played very well in the forwards. Was very good this season. another one from Kilkenny. I suppose Billy Drennan in his under-20 performance was very good. I know it's not particularly senior, but he was very good. Aidan O'Connor and Shane O'Brien were very good for Limerick in that under-20 championship. I suppose Adam Scree for Offaly and Dan Ravenhill were excellent in that Offaly minor campaign as well. So there'd be a few nominees, but I think Mikey Butler is clear at the top of the three. He was absolutely incredible this season and announced himself as one of the best cornerbacks in the game this season.
Yeah, I mean, that performance versus Clare was exceptional, and to keep Tony Kelly as quiet as he did in that All-Ireland semi-finals, I think clearly has put himself in the conversation, and I think he was very, very unlucky in terms of or sort of in terms of, you know, not, I think, did he win an All-Star in the end? He did win one, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did, actually, yeah. For some reason, I thought he didn't win one there, but yeah, in terms of manager of the year then, do you know what, we'll I suppose one in Gaelic football, one in hurling, and then you can pick which one you think actually overall done a better job. For me, I'll go first in terms of football manager of the year. I think Brian Cody for me. Brian Cody as hurling manager of the year. It's been I was out last night, so I'm mixing up all my words and everything else now. Rory Gallagher as Gaelic footballer of the year, and I think overall probably as manager of the year. But what do you think?
Yeah, I agree on both of them, actually, Brian Cody and Rory Gallagher. Overall, I'd have to go Rory Gallagher because of the sense of achievement he got. Like, you have to remember with Derry as well, they only lost to 2 inter-county sides this season, if we're counting all competitions. They only got the McKenna Cup and Galway twice as well in the league and in the championship. So, that was an incredible job. The way Derry dismantled Tyrone that first day as well, incredible from Rory Gallagher. And yeah, he announced himself as one of the best managers in the country. I suppose an honourable mention probably Colin Collins from Clare, because of the way he kept Clare up against the odds yet again, and getting them to the All-Ireland quarter-final to galvanise that team to get over Roscommon was incredible in a way from him. Billy Lee is definitely up there from Limerick. Mickey Hart has to be up there from Louth, despite his style of football. He's definitely up there. I think Jack O'Connor, I know I don't like Kerry particularly, but Jack O'Connor has to be up there. The way he galvanised that Kerry team, the way he changed it. Even though it didn't work for coach of the year, actually, not necessarily manager of the year, but coach, Paddy Talley is up at the top. I think he was incredible. The way he, united that Kerry defence, the way he made them all better, like Jason Foley, Tyrone Morley, Shane Ryan, them three in particular, they wouldn't have been household names before Paddy Talley came in. And he transformed those players into war beaters. He was absolutely incredible that way. But for me, for achievement alone with that Derry squad and the way they developed this season into one of the best teams in the country, not just in Ulster, Rory Gallagher for me. I think he's done an incredible job this season.
Yeah, do you think Eamon Murray maybe deserves a shout as well in terms of ladies football? I mean, obviously winning back-to-back All-Irelands, and considering where Meath were a couple of years ago, I mean, that's a tremendous achievement as well.
I suppose, yeah. I suppose Dara Quill and Declan Long from Kerry as well to get them all the way to the All-Ireland final deserves credit. Maxie Curd from Donegal as well. The way he set up his team, very difficult to beat, so he'd be definitely up there. Yeah, you'd have to say about Murray, what a manager he is, and the fact he won a league and a championship double this season with that Meath side, incredible achievement from him. And yeah, he definitely has to be up there, I suppose. Brian Downey from Kilkenny has to be up there from winning the Camogie All-Ireland match at Toomey to galvanise that Cork team to get all the way to the All-Ireland final, introducing a load of players, and a load of them players in the Cork Camogie team have announced themselves as brilliant players this season as well. So he has to be up there as a manager of the year. So yeah, I think they definitely have to be up there. The ladies managers definitely don't get the credit they deserve. So yeah, I suppose Brian Dowling, Eamon Murray, Matthew Toomey, any of those definitely deserves a mention as well. And I suppose definitely Emma Kelly from Antrim, getting the Antrim ladies up to the intermediate championship after a titanic battle, 2 battles with Fermanagh in the junior championship, definitely deserves praise as well. So yeah, I think all of them definitely are up there for manager of the year. I suppose Eamon Murray would be top of the tree in that particular category there.
Yeah, Jason says John Coyley 3 in a row. I mean, yeah, I think John Coyley maybe sometimes doesn't get the credit he deserves, maybe because we're so used to seeing Limerick being as successful as they are. But obviously, winning 3 in a row, obviously, they're only a couple more games away from being the longest unbeaten streak of any county in senior hurling. So, definitely can't be forgetting him either.
Absolutely, yeah. And the fact we're talking about Limerick possibly replicating Dublin 6 in a row probably just shows the great job he's doing at the moment. And he's an incredible manager. And 4 Munsters in a row now. It could have been 5 All Irelands in a row if the sideline went Darragh O'Donovan's way. We'll go on all night about that one. But yeah, he was incredible manager this season, John Coyley, and definitely deserves the praise. A bit like Jim Gavin in a way, underappreciated. And when he's gone, we appreciate him even more. And that will probably be the same with John Coyley in the next few seasons as well.
Yeah, looking at point of the year then, I suppose maybe in Gaelic football, hurling, or any levels maybe you can think of. Obviously, I think in Gaelic football anyway, the 2 front runners really would probably be Sean O'Shea's up against Rian O'Neill's. Sean O'Shea's versus Dublin, obviously, and Rian O'Neill's point versus Galway. And then looking at hurling, I mean, Tony Kelly's point versus Limerick with Clare was obviously exceptional as well. So what do you think? What was your point of the year?
Yeah, I think first of all, Tony Kelly's is way clear. What a point, and that hasn't really been closely followed by any of them. Any of the nominees, particularly in my head, I could think of Cian Lynch against Cork, possibly the one on his knees where he's just kneeling down and just strikes it over the bar. That was a brilliant point, in fairness to them. For football, I suppose, yeah, Rian O'Neill, Sean O'Shea definitely deserve credit. Shane Walsh's one against Kerry, where he comes in off the sideline, was an incredible point as well. I suppose there's definitely a few others in football off the top of my head. I can't really think of a few. Jesus, I'd say there's bound to be one with Keith Ball from Leitrim because he kicked some excellent points this season in fairness to him. I think Stephen Shaw against Kerry was an incredible point because of the way he just weaved and then hit it on the outside of the boot, and what a score that was. But definitely the 2 front runners are Rian O'Neill and Sean O'Shea. Because of the significance of it down the line, I have to go Sean O'Shea's because, Jesus, up against the hill, against the wind, against Evan Comerford shaking the post and whatever he does, and outside the 45-metre line as well. What a score. And to get Kerry to the All-Ireland final, that kick, I know it was the All-Ireland semi-final, but that kick won't carry the All-Ireland. That kick alone, that was an incredible kick. And yeah, there was arguments that Kerry would have got over the challenge if it went to extra time anyway. But the fact he got us straight away to win Kerry the game in normal time, and the significance of it, because Kerry had their fair few battles with Dublin and came out the wrong side every single time since about 2011. And to win that battle due to that late kick, that's a crucial kick from him. Huge pressure on him. And I don't think many people appreciate the amount of pressure that Sean O'Shea was on, considering Kerry didn't beat Dublin since 2009 in the championship, and that was an incredible kick and really significant as well. So I'd have to go Sean O'Shea's, and in hurling, Tony Kelly's without a doubt.
Yeah, I'd agree as well. I think you could argue maybe Rian O'Neill's point had more skill given the fact that it was closer to the sideline. It was a bit more clutch, obviously, with the fact that if he hadn't missed it, Galway would have won there and then. But as you said, with Sean O'Shea's point, 55 yards out, so much obviously on the line as well. Considering Kerry hadn't beaten Dublin since 2009, it was just a huge moment. Considering they went on to win the All-Ireland as well, I think that's what probably made it that bit more special. And considering the amount of heartbreak Kerry would have had against Dublin down the years 2011, 2013, 2019, I mean, so many years down the line where Kerry were getting beaten by the Dubs. So I think it would have been or it certainly was a huge moment for Sean O'Shea and for Kerry. John says here, hi lads, it'll be very difficult for Limerick to be dethroned, just like Gavin inspired the lads. Coyley has a great squad of lads. And absolutely, yeah, and they're all at the right age group. So that's the thing with Limerick, and that's why the comparisons are there with the Dubs, is that when Dublin had won 3-4 in a row, you were just looking at it and thinking, well, no one's really slowing down. There might be 1 or 2 lads getting older, but there's a whole bunch of lads here that aren't even getting into the team, and that's kind of how it is with Limerick at times.
It is, yeah. And they're an absolutely incredible side, and definitely they don't get the recognition they deserve. Like, I hear some Clare fans on social media saying we're going to win Munster because we challenged Limerick. I'm thinking it's not that simple, lads. This Limerick team is not going to stop, and until they get to their 30s possibly, because you mentioned the age profile there, like Gerald Hagerty, Aaron Gallant, Cian Lynch, they're still all relatively young, like, and they're still going, and there's still more coming up through the ranks, like Colin O'Neill, Peter Casey. You look at Adrian Breen and David Dempsey, who are so good for the Pearshing and the club championship, and they can't even make the team, you know? And it's incredible in a way. And yeah, John Coyley, the ideal manager, we're deliberating where does Kyle Hayes fit into the team next season. You know,
Yeah.
and Kyle Hayes is one of the best players in the country. You know, and I don't think people appreciate this Limerick team as being successful. Everybody thinks we're going to knock them off their perch, especially Clare fans in the last year. I think, like, because they challenged Limerick in a chance of the extra time, will beat Limerick this time round. It doesn't work that way. You have to do it consistently. And this Limerick team is doing it consistently day in, day out, year in, year out. And they're absolutely incredible. And I think, personally, they're going to break Dublin's record. They're an absolutely incredible side. And they might even get 7, 8 in a row for as long as they want. This Limerick team is here to stay. And people probably need to accept that and accept that John Coyley is an excellent manager. They have excellent players coming off the bench, and yeah, an overall great bunch of lads, as one of the comments correctly said.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely on track to potentially beat it, or at least match it. Anyways, I mean I still think there is a lot of very, very good sides in hurling as opposed to maybe Gaelic football a couple of years ago. So maybe you might see a Cork, a Kilkenny, a Tipperary potentially maybe catch them on an off day. I think that's the only way they probably are going to get beat, is if they just have a massive off day. But I think at the same time, they found an answer every time a punch has been thrown at them in the last 3 years, you know, and there's just nothing to suggest that they're going to slow down unless John Coyley, the management team, decide to call it a day or something like that. But you just can't really see that happening anytime soon. In terms of goal of the year, then, I mean, some obviously big goals in both hurling and Gaelic football. You think of Harry Ruddle's goal for Ballygunner, which won them the All-Ireland, and obviously in Gaelic football, so many big goals and big moments as well. So what stands out for you as the goal of the year?
Harry Ruddle's against Ballygunner was an absolutely, or against Ballyhale, excuse me, was an incredible goal. And the time he got it as well, and, you know, he had to get a goal at that point. It was an incredible finish, and to win the All-Ireland because of the significance of it, it's definitely up there. Mikey Coyley's against IG Carlow in the Fitzgibbon Cup, I think, is underrated because if Mikey Coyley doesn't get that goal, you wouldn't have won the Fitzgibbon Cup this season. There's no doubt about that. They were 2 points down. He gets a free out about the same as Sean O'Shea's distance, except it wasn't centrally in the goal or anything. It was at the side, 55 yards of goal or something like that. And he belts it, an almighty whack into the back of the net. It was an absolutely incredible goal. That finish, I suppose, this is in goal of the year, but Tim O'Banney's against Tipperary because of the team move. I think that has to be up there as well. Tommy O'Connell's ball in, Darragh Fitzgibbon's flick in, and a brilliant finish from Tim O'Banney. I know there's question marks over the Tipperary defence from that, but that has to be up there. Gerald Hagerty against Kilkenny, as I mentioned. He couldn't have even put it more perfect, if you know what I mean. You know, he couldn't have put it further in the top corner as he did. It was an incredible finish. For football goal of the year, it's a difficult one. I suppose David Clifford's against Mayo, because of the crap that Paddy O'Hora was going on about him, and then David Clifford just goes hot pace, bit of a walk in the park, back to net. Brilliant finish from him. I suppose thinking Roy Grugan's against Donegal has to be up there. Garrett McKinless against Clare, particularly. All the Derry goals, in fairness, were brilliant against Clare, but that one in particularly, where he just roofs into the back of the net, was an incredible finish. I think that has to be up there. Colin O'Mahony's against Limerick was underrated as well. The way he had to weave in from the sideline, and then he placed it at the near side of the goalkeeper rather than the far side. The far side probably would have been easier for him, but he put it in the near side, and that was a brilliantly executed goal there from Colin O'Mahony, and brilliant performance from him all throughout the year. I suppose Dermot Mortals against Galway was incredible. Like, he was, how many men surrounded him for Galway? I think there was about 5 Galway players surrounding him, and he had to weave in, weave out, and then unleashed a rocket into the back of the net. It was an incredible finish. Keir Martins against Cavan, I think, goes under the radar, the Tallaght Cup final as well, because of A, the significance of it to seal the title for Westmeath, and B, an incredible finish. Because, again, like Dermot Burton's goal, how many Cavan men were beside Keir Martin? It was an incredible finish. For goal of the year overall, though, it's a difficult one, but I personally go Keir Martins against Cavan because of the significance and the finish of it. And for Hurling, I know a lot of people say Harry Rodel, so I'm going to go different. I'm going to go Mikey Kiley against Icy Carlo. I think that was an incredible finish and definitely should be talked about more.
Yeah, for Hurling, like I'd be between the Harry Ruddle goal and also TJ Reid's against St. Martin's as well. Like that was obviously an unbelievable goal late on, like with literally the last poke of the ball as well. But I just think the significance of Harry Ruddle's goal, like with the fact that it won them the All-Ireland, their very first All-Ireland against a team like Ballyhale, who are as dominant as they are in winning All-Irelands. I just think that was a huge, huge moment. And then in football, it's a difficult one as well. Like there's so many good ones. I mean, I think Gerben Murta's versus Roscommon in terms of skill was probably the best one that I've seen. Like Cormac Costello's versus Kerry, I think can't go unnoticed as well. Like obviously putting that, like he couldn't have put it any more in the corner than he did. And even Shane Walsh's goal versus Roscommon, I thought was a very, very good goal in the Connacht final. Looking at the story of the year then, and this can be anything really from up and down the country. I mean, in terms of me, like a story that I really liked was obviously when in Semple Stadium following Kilruagwan McDonough's, I think it was the drawn game in the Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship final. They obviously paid tribute to late Dylan Quirk, who tragically passed away just a couple of weeks previously. I mean, that was I suppose a great moment, and it was great to see the lads obviously pay their respects in Semple Stadium following such a crazy game of hurling. But in terms for yourself, any kind of stories of the year for you?
I suppose this is a culmination of everything this year. Like it is, the Dylan Quirk thing that was definitely up there. But this is a culmination of a load of who passed away this season, and the way the GAA community actually got together. I think that was definitely up there, and probably the story of the year, in my opinion. Like with David Clifford in that post-match interview, it was something small for Red Oak Murphy as well, but he did it. He just said, I'd love to pay tribute to Red Oak Murphy, brilliant footballer and all that. And yeah, the way Red Oak Murphy, the way the GAA community revelled around his whole family was incredible. Dylan Quirk, the same. I look at Paul Shefflin, Henry Shefflin's brother, who we were mentioning early on in the podcast. That was a heartbreaking date as well. I think as well. There was a few others, Conor McCahey, I think, from Tyrone. The way the Tyrone community got together as well. The Crease Lock one, I know that isn't specifically GAA, but there's a few GAA connections there as well, and the whole GAA community getting behind the people of Donegal during that time. Kate Moore, camogie player, who tragically lost her life as well during a Galway camogie game, I think it was. And the way Pádraig Joyce conducted himself after the Mayo game, I think that Mayo game was actually 3 days after Kate died. So that was a poignant moment for the whole Galway county in a way. Close to home as well, Padraig Griffin died, tragically around the Clonakilty area. That was a great death as well. And the whole Clonakilty community, the whole Cork GAA community got behind the Clonakilty area as well. That was brilliant to see. So for me, Aaron, it was a culmination of all the way the GAA community gets behind families, friends, and it recognises the most important thing isn't who scored the goal, who's going to win the All-Ireland, who's going to win Sam, who's going to win Liam this season. It's the way the GAA community revel around each other when tragedy strikes. And I think that was the big thing this season. A bit like your incident, but for my story of the year is probably the way the GAA got behind everybody when tragedy struck.
Yeah, no, I think you've put it absolutely perfectly there. Like, and yeah, I think the response from big figures within the GAA, whether it be captains or managers, to some of the tragic deaths up and down the country, I think was obviously great to see. And I think another story worth mentioning was obviously one that Shay mentioned yesterday as well, and obviously Luke Loughlin, who, he's been very open about some of his battles with alcohol addiction, and the fact that he was able to obviously overcome that. But then at the same time, with Westmeath, you've seen his performances. They obviously win the Tailteann Cup. He's a fantastic year. He plays a key part for the Downs as well in reaching a Leinster club final. So I think when you look at his story as well, like from where he came from, like I think that's another one as well that I think we can all look back at in 22 and sort of look at and think, Jesus, fair play.
Yeah, exactly. Like Luke Loughlin as well, to win the Tailteann Cup as well after that incident, and to get to a Leinster final and win the Westmeath Championship and be one of the main men in that the Downs run as well. Incredible resilience from the guy as well. And we all knew he was a brilliant player, but we probably didn't know about his alcohol addiction up until this year. And the way he recovered, and performed absolutely brilliantly the Tailteann Cup as well, setting up that goal in the final for Lark and Dolan as well. And he played his part in that Westmeath team to win it. And yeah, it was an incredible story as well. And there's loads of stories for the GA this year that you just have to think they're definitely up there. I suppose Derry winning Ulster as well. I know this isn't, we talk about the wider context and all that, and this definitely isn't the most important of things, but Derry winning Ulster was incredible. The way they did it as well, beating Tyrone, beating Monaghan, and beating Donegal in the final, the three favourites in the past few seasons. That for Derry to do it was an incredible achievement, and for Chrissy McCaig to finally get his hands on the Anglo-Celt Cup as well, and for me to listen back to my podcast and what he was saying about Derry football and things like that, about Rory Gallagher, building for the future, and the fact that Derry were accepting that Cork were a better team than Derry and stuff like that, and he thought Ulster was miles away. And the fact they won an Ulster Championship a year after that interview was conducted, I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredible achievement for the whole of Derry as well. And I suppose Aisling Donacher as well, bringing Dan onto the pitch, that was a story of the year as well. Brilliant story. So there's been a load of stories, emotional or not, brilliant stories up and down the country this season. Even Jack O'Connor bring Sam Maguire to Mick O'Dwyer, that photo, that's probably up there with photo of the year, story of the year as well. So yeah, there's been a lot of stories up and down the country, and Luke Loughlin is definitely up there without a doubt.
100%. Yeah, well, I think that very much covers it in terms of looking back at 2022 and obviously looking back at all the big moments and everything else. And obviously we both hope that 2023 lives up to the billing in terms of excitement. I mean, maybe a question to end on was one from Tom earlier. Who do you think will win Sam in 2023? I mean, are either of us looking past Kerry? I know Dublin are, with obviously Mannion and McCaffrey coming back in and everything else. And obviously as a Dublin fan, I would certainly love for Dublin to win it. But I think if I had to take my Dublin hat off for the moment, it is hard to look past Kerry. I think Dublin will be the closest, but yeah, I know I've asked you this before recently, but what do you think?
Yeah, has to be Kerry. But what I will say is two teams are capable of beating this Kerry team because they struggle against those sides historically are Derry and Armagh. So watch out for them this season. I think they could have very good seasons, the both of them, but overall, yeah, it's that hard to look past Kerry. They're an unbelievable side. And as long as Paddy Talley's staying in the coaching role there, the more All-Irelands they're going to win. And they're an incredible side. And yeah, Kerry are back up at the top table. We both hate to say it, but look, it's true. And yeah, we have to prepare for a years of Kerry dominance, unfortunately.
Absolutely, yeah. Gavin said here, Paddy Brogan and Stroketown had great long shot against Roscommon. Gales, but Stroketown, also my favourite story, boys, but we're almost relegated to junior, but instead they won the county. And yeah, they obviously was a Colm Lavin, I think, who came off the bench and kicked the last minute point. And obviously he hadn't played a senior game up until that point. And, a brave call probably by the management in such a tight game to bring on a player who hasn't played for the senior team, but on he comes, scores the winner. That has to be one of the moments of the year as well.
Has to be. There's been a load of club stories up and down the country that can be classified as a moment of the year as well. I suppose the Sarsfield sisters doing it for the Camogie as well. That definitely has to be up there. I don't know how many. Like the manager is there. I forget his name. He's a McGrath anyway. The manager, and then his daughter Siobhan, Orla, Liam, all chipping in and doing so well. And there's more to come as well. That was an incredible story as well. So there's been a lot of stories up and down the country for club and the Monday Club as well. That was definitely up there with stories of the year in terms of Twitter in a way, and people getting excited about the club championship. That was definitely up there as well. So yeah, a lot of club stories. Unlucky to miss out as well.
Yeah, Tom says agreed. Has to be Kerry. Happy New Year to you, lads, and yeah, happy New Year to you, Tom, and everyone else who's tuned in. I wish all of you have a great New Year. There'll obviously be plenty of content coming out on the channel and plenty of content out on Matthew's channel as well, the GAA Statsman channel over on Instagram, YouTube, and all podcasts and apps as well. So make sure to subscribe over there. Subscribe here if you can. Hit the like button, and yeah, Matthew, cheers very much for coming on.
Thanks very much, Aaron, and hopefully that Cork can beat Dublin and Páirc Uí Chaoimh in the league. That would be a brilliant start to the new year.
Oh, Jesus, no. I think we got to end this here.